Hello and welcome to Bro Bacon. Today we'll be reacting to why economists hate Trump's tariff plan, and it's from the Wall Street Journal, right?
Yep.
And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to leave a like as well. So let's get into it.
Before we get into tariffs,
the heart of the Donald Trump economic plan.
we should talk about the chicken war.
The chicken war is a clucking good story.
In post-World War II West Germany, people started eating a lot of chicken, specifically American chicken.
Damn.
Midway through 1962, U.S. farmers were on track to sell more than $50 million worth, $500 million in today's money. This made European farmers mad, so the organization that later became the European Union put a tariff on chicken. A 5-pound chicken that started as $1.60 became $2.25. Imports quickly dropped. U.S. chicken farmers and politicians were furious.
And we thought Germany's our big market for chicken, and so if we hurt the Germans, maybe we'll get them to change their mind on chicken.
So the U.S. put a 25% tariff on trucks, like Germany's Volkswagen. And it worked. Their truck sales in the U.S. fell by half, and they never really recovered. Meanwhile, Germans paid more for their chicken, and Americans had fewer truck options.
But the Germans didn't reduce the price of the chicken, even after America was doing the right thing, right then?
Yeah.
To protect their farmers. Damn, man. Why did they reduce it? So when these guys put the tax on the Volkswagen, Germans should have lowered it, right? But they didn't.
It's still the same until this day.
I do not know. That's the thing. So they just left it as it is.
It's kind of a perfect example of what tariffs do. Hurt consumers while protecting very specific industries, or attempt to get countries to change their behavior. While they haven't been a large part of trade policy in decades, former President Donald Trump wants to change that.
Some might say it's economic nationalism. I call it common sense. I call it America first.
President Trump has really sort of brought a lot of people out to think that tariffs might be something that's useful in America's economic arsenal in a way that hasn't been used in the past.
Here's how tariffs work and what Trump's proposals would do. Let's start in 2018, when President Trump put tariffs on
Washing machines, we're going to benefit our consumers and we're going to create a lot of jobs.
Since then, whenever a washing machine is imported to the U.S., the company on the U.S. side doing the importing pays a tariff to the U.S. government.
Their margins are pretty low. They've got to pass that price on to consumers who ultimately pay it. That's the whole point, in some sense, to reduce demand for those goods and create space for domestic producers.
So by having those tariffs, they can basically make the local people start manufacturing again. It's like incentivize them to start manufacturing again, because now the washing machine is expensive.
Expensive, right? Yeah.
But the question is, will those guys do it, or will they increase the price to compete with that level? I mean, if it was the same price, that means the consumers will be paying more.
Yeah.
So for example, if the rice was at 300 importing, and these guys also raise it to 300, it's the same thing.
Same thing. Yeah. Exactly.
But the added advantage is that they're able to create jobs,
Jobs. Yeah.
because they're manufacturing now, and manufacturing leads to employment, and employment will create more jobs.
After the tariffs, not only did the price of imported washing machines go up, so did the ones made in the U.S.
There's this myth out there that if we tax imports, domestic producers won't change their prices. And that's not the case. You're creating more demand for them.
So naturally, the price goes up.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just washers. Dryers went up in price too, even though they weren't part of the tariffs.
I mean, the washers and dryers, they're complementary goods. So
Complementary.
yeah,
You obviously have
so
to
they
do
go in hand in hand.
Usually it's the case, if you buy a washer, you buy a dryer. So even though dryers weren't directly affected by the tariff, they were indirectly affected by the shift in demand.
Now, it wasn't all bad. These tariffs did
Create a lot of jobs.
about 1,800, mostly from those foreign companies like Samsung and LG opening plants in the U.S. And a study found the U.S. collected $82 million annually. But because of
pretty
those
decent.
price increases, it cost consumers $1.5 billion more. So they basically paid $815,000 per job.
This is a very expensive job creation program. And so that's another reason why economists don't like tariffs. They're much more cost-effective, more efficient ways of increasing employment in those industries.
But what are the other ways, cost-effective ways we can think about? I do not know. But then the people who are getting screwed on both ends are the consumers.
Consumers, yeah, they always have to
Yeah, because they
Yeah.
have to bear this grunt of this.
Trade wars and all.
Yeah, trade wars. So like they have to pay higher for these products. President Trump tries to do is for the best interest of the American people always. That's what is in his heart. But at the same time, you have to look into the long run. Like it's going to increase inflation also, right? And American wages, and when American starts manufacturing products, it's very expensive, right? And they can't export it unless then you're coming to automation. Then you can become an exporting nation. But that also automation is also a dangerous thing,
Yeah,
because
'cause
then
no jobs.
no
right?
jobs.
Yeah.
So you have another problem there.
Yeah.
Machine starts making stuff automatically, all of it, and then it also sells the stuff, which we can see which is happening now. Like say for example, the big companies are going to start selling it, like Amazon and all of them. The middlemen and the small guys will be out of business. Yeah,
It's already happening.
and because they're dominant, they can control prices. It's really going to affect the prices still. Though, like once these big companies have this manufacturing power and they know what they can do, when the tariff is in place, they will not remove the tariffs. They will want to get the maximum out of the consumers. In the end, the consumers are the ones that's going to pay. These people are the ones who are really paying the taxes, right? Not the big companies. They are not paying the taxes.
Yeah.
They just put some, I don't know what kind of accounting they do. They escape from the taxes and they avoid it. The people are these small people are the ones, blue collar workers, or they are the ones who
Yeah.
pay up, and then they do not have, because they're living check to check every day. In the end, still, Trump is right. He's doing the right thing to protect the people, but I don't know how he's going to do that.
These weren't the only tariffs Trump created in 2018. The big ones were on
Steel and aluminum.
Those were really designed to punish China for its
Ouch.
transgressions of international trade rules.
also for national security. They're used to make a lot of military equipment, but also everyday things like cars.
All the industries that use steel have to pay the higher price. That squeezes their profit margins, and it also puts them at a competitive disadvantage against foreign producers of those same goods who don't have to pay those inflated costs for their inputs.
Yeah, because China holds most of these minerals. They went to Africa and they have grabbed onto all of them, from steel to all this stuff. China holds it, and if they increase the import, if they increase the tariff, the manufacturings will get hit. Certain, but not all. Depends on the industry. It's a difficult situation.
And so a lot of studies have shown that you lose jobs, as many, if not more jobs, in those downstream industries as you gain in the upstream industries that are being protected by the tariffs.
Many studies on the 2018 tariffs found some pros, some cons. Manufacturing jobs, which were on the decline, didn't increase, but they did level out. The overall economy lost jobs, mostly in those downstream industries, and the costs of the tariffs were passed on to U.S. companies and consumers. So, not great for the economy, but it did motivate U.S. companies to move out of China and made supply chains more resilient.
That's an important thing, though. Motivating the companies to move away from China back into your country. This is also good for national security. It can help them with keeping their technology in-house. That is one thing. And the other part is that, like, you are the only person who can have that stuff, and you can export it. You have more like a monopoly power in that, like example from chips and all that stuff. You can have control over it.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's one good thing, and at the same time, it's American companies that had moved out before. Now they're coming back in, and the reason that they moved out is because it's cheaper to manufacture in China and the other countries. That was the first thing that they moved out, not because it was America.
Oh.
They moved out because it was cheaper to manufacture there. Because when it's cheaper to manufacture there, they can be competitive in the global market.
Exactly. Yeah, that makes sense.
Because they're paying very low wages in China, but not now. Back in those days, they were paying very low wages in China, and then they had advantage. But now when they move back, it's going to increase the cost. And the people are, like example, like people buying those companies that have moved away, and if they start exporting, we'll have to pay more.
Exactly.
Like for example, let's say the graphics card is manufactured in the US, I think we would have to pay more
Exactly.
to import.
Yeah, yeah.
But they're also right. The cost to consumer is also high. That's what they have been paying. Overall employment, 142,000 jobs lost. But we don't know how many jobs were created
Created as well. Yeah.
and what industry. It's a complete different thing. And for what reason? For what purpose? By taxing by having tariffs also, you can bring in revenue, right? So you can bring in revenue and you can use it for your R&D. You can incentivize companies, manufacturers. You can do a lot of things when you have that kind of money coming in. This is okay, but I feel like sometimes I think the world has unfairly dealt with the US when it comes, because US has been buying a lot, but nobody has been buying back especially from China. There's a big trade deficit there, like 400 billion.
Yeah.
But the problem here is, what does America have to offer China that they can buy something from?
China could just make their own thing and just sell it off as well.
Yeah, it's a deeper picture. We have to go deeper into it. Like, what can they sell though? They can sell soybeans. I think they've been purchasing soybeans before.
They have
And
to be
something
really
else.
competitive, I guess, to actually come up with that.
Yeah. So there should be something that they're able to sell to another country. They have to think in such ways how to market something to another country rather than just always putting in tariffs.
But it didn't change much of China's behavior, and in many ways they became more aggressive.
See, China has become more aggressive now. Trump has increased the tariffs to Canada, to Mexico, to the European Union, and to China.
They're all going to be aggressive.
Exactly. They're going to start thinking in terms of themselves now.
Mhm.
Just like America first, people are going to put themselves first.
Yeah. They could do the same for them.
Yeah,
So-
European Union, and if they start putting themselves first, it's a big hit.
Exactly.
This can get really ugly also in the future. I don't know, depending on the economies. What if Africa says you can't come to our country, start purchasing our stuff? We have to protect our own interest. US says we have to protect our own interest. That guy says we have to protect our own interest. Finally, consumers won't have anything to eat. Colombia would say, why should we sell coffee at this rate? It's our product. Saudi would say, why should we sell off our oil? If they start putting their interest first.
But here's the thing. Even with all the economic downsides, a review by the Biden administration suggested Trump's tariffs should remain and the administration should add or increase them, which they did.
Once tariffs get in place, there are two factors that sort of keep them in place for some time. First of all, there are going to be domestic interest groups that have a stake in seeing those tariffs maintained because they like the extra market share that they've gained as a result of those tariffs. And second of all, tariffs are a bargaining chip. So why would we sort of unilaterally get rid of these, even if there's some economic benefits, when we might use it in some negotiations down the road?
Tariffs are really hard to remove. It's why, 60 years later, there's still a 25% tariff on trucks,
Oh my God.
even though U.S. chicken farmers no longer care about selling in Europe.
So we're still living with the legacy of the chicken war. So that's sort of another lesson of history, is you have to be careful about imposing these tariffs because you think you're doing it for short-term strategic reasons or you're just helping out this industry temporarily, but they can last for decade upon decade upon decade.
Tariff policy is kind of old. Even by the chicken war, they were only imposed on around 7% of U.S. imports. Trump's plan for a second term is to bring them back
Holy shit.
dramatically.
This is the policy that built this country, and this is the policy that will save our country.
He's proposing a 60% tariff on
Whoa,
everything from
60%.
China,
Damn, bro.
and a 10 or even 20% on every import from every other country.
Countries are going to finally, after 75 years, pay us back for all that we've done for the world.
Multiple independent studies looked at the possible effects. One found it would cost the average American household $1,700 from higher prices. Another found it could cost more than 684,000 jobs. And they don't factor in how domestic goods might get more expensive, or retaliatory tariffs from other countries.
They're not going to take this lying down. They're not going to change their behavior in some way to appease the administration that imposes such tariffs. They're going to retaliate. So not only will U.S. imports shrink, but U.S. exports will shrink as well.
Trump wants to use these tariffs as a revenue stream for the U.S. to pay for tax cuts.
As tariffs on foreign countries go up, taxes on American workers and families come down.
Studies found his proposal would likely bring in around $250 billion per year. about 5% of what the federal government currently brings in with taxes. So if tariffs are harmful, always harmful even to the economy, why is Trump so focused on them? In the last 20 years, China has gotten aggressive, investing in manufacturing to become the world's largest exporter. Even today, they invest more than any other country. It has let them export things like steel and aluminum
But why didn't America continue industrializing themselves?
Yeah, we should have done that.
at below market values. That, coupled with numerous trade rule violations,
allowed President Trump to really restart the whole discussion about using tariffs to achieve certain objectives, such as punishing other countries, and the Biden administration has just continued that. So the whole environment has really changed from 20 years ago, when trade policy was pretty quiet business, and now we're talking about industrial policy, tariffs, subsidies, and all these different interventions because the whole global and geopolitical environment has changed quite dramatically.
and it would change even more dramatically with Trump's proposed tariff plan. In the short run, we know the economy will suffer. In the long run, no one really knows. Will it be a war between the US and the rest of the world, or
She's right. No one really knows how the future is going to be, how it's going to play out, what technologies will be involved, how efficient will the other countries be, how efficient will the US be.
You know, things could change. It's
A lot
really-
of things could change, and the US has been an importing nation from like long time now. With the oil trade, they were pretty much in power because the oil was dealt with dollars. The Chinese was using their dollars in other countries, basically doing marketing for them, because the US dollar was the most solid currency.
solid currency, yeah.
So basically, I don't know what he's trying to do by creating trade war. Is he trying to restrict dollars? And by doing that, will people start de-dollarizing? That's a big problem. That could happen too. If people start, I think it's already happening. The shift is already happening. I mean, if they start trading oil with a different currency, and BRICS is also there.
But they're not as powerful, right? So,
BRICS is not as powerful. No, nowhere close yet. But it all starts like this,
yeah, slowly.
slowly. But if America grows aggressively, if other people start being aggressive as well, then this is going to be bad for the US. So they have to trade it carefully. By no means, I'm not an economist or anything like that. I'm just here for reaction. But we are just, we sharing our thoughts, and yeah. So this is what I think.
Exactly.
I like Trump's approach though. He's trying to protect.
I mean, he's taking action. at
He's taking
least.
action
Yeah,
compared to
speak
the
out.
other people. He's not scared to speak his mind. He's taking action. The other side is, this is the world. This is not the US, or this is not Wall Street. This is the world. It could happen. It could not happen. People have different ideas.
Exactly.
Back in those days, the internet was not there and people were ignorant, and certain people had knowledge and they were able to capitalize on that knowledge and become powerful. But today, when the internet is so prevalent and knowledge is everywhere, and kids could easily get on and quickly study a subject,
Yeah, that's true.
and they could be just like that, They're into robotics, they're into AI and everything. We do
But
not
that
know how the
fast.
future is going to be.
Yeah, exactly.
So sometimes, things can happen. We never know. Right now, DeepSeek is also there in China. We never expected that to happen.
Yeah, it was just out of the blue.
They already taken over the car industry is also with them. Aviation is with them. China is done a lot.
Exactly.
They are working towards it. Just because somebody is progressing does not mean you should be scared of them and make them go lower or stop their progression.
You should also
This is more like cowardly behavior.
Yeah, exactly.
You should try to
Become better as
better.
well. Yeah,
One step at a time.
exactly.
Well, this is our take on.
Well, I say Trump's
yeah.
tariff plan. If you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And we'll be uploading a lot more, so stay tuned for that.
Yep.